If you have vaginal yeast infection and you don't treat it, it's going to increase your risk of other infections. Yes, vaginal yeast infection can also increase your risk of other infections, such as sexual transmittable diseases. Hi guys, today we are going to be talking about risk factors, prevention tips, treatment options, and complications of vaginal yeast infection and urinary tract infection in women. If you have not watched my previous video where I did explain what actually are these conditions, where we look at the symptoms, we look at the causes, and we try to differentiate these two conditions, please, I will tag it in the video description box. You can check on it so that you understand what we are going to dive today into. Today we are going to look at four main aspects, and we are going to break it down into two sections. The first section, we are going to be looking at vaginal yeast infections, and under it we are going to have option 1 where we'll look at the risk factors. Now, what are the risk factors of vaginal yeast infection? Number 1 risk factor is the use of antibiotics. For example, if you have been taking antibiotics recently, you may be susceptible to a vaginal yeast infection. Number 2, if you are using pills, that is hormonal birth control methods such as pills, of course, it can increase your risk of vaginal yeast infection. Number 3 is diabetes. Now, women with diabetes are more prone to vaginal yeast infection due to high blood sugar level. So it's good that you should know. It's very, very important. If you also have a weak immune system, there are a lot of things that happen. Your body is unable to fight disease condition. This can predispose you to a vaginal yeast infection. Now, what are the treatment options for this vaginal yeast infection? We are going to look at specifically 2 treatment options. We are going to look at the home remedies, and we are going to look at medications, which are often referred to antifungal medications. Now, you can take medications if you realize that you have a vaginal yeast infection. Of course, you can take antifungal medication that can help you clear up the infection. Now, this home remedy, it is very, very important. We have oil, we call them that a tea tree oil. So you can apply it to the affected area. That may also alleviate symptoms, right? Now, what are the prevention tips? How can you prevent this vaginal yeast infection? Now, the most important thing is for you to practice good hygiene. It is very, very important. It's for you to practice good hygiene. Practicing good hygiene, it is very effective to prevent vaginal yeast infection. Another important factor that you need to take into consideration is for you to avoid tight-fitting clothing. Yeah, tight-fitting clothing, it is very, very dangerous because it can predispose you to vaginal yeast infection, especially during exercise and when the weather is very warm. Yeah, so you can be predisposed. Another important point, number 3, is to how you can manage stress. Stress has a lot to do with health issue. Now, you can manage stress by applying stress technique such as meditation. You can do deep breathing. That can also help you to prevent vaginal yeast infections. What are the complications that comes with this vaginal yeast infection? For example, if you realize that you have vaginal yeast infection and you don't take measures, you don't take remedies to deal with this condition, it can predispose you to complicated issues that you are going to, of course, you are going to spend more. You are going to spend time, you are going to spend finances. So it's very important that we understand. If you have vaginal yeast infection and you don't treat it, of course, even in the future, is going to come back. You are going to have a recurring infections, if left untreated. If you have vaginal yeast infection and you don't treat it, it's going to increase your risk of other infections. Yes, vaginal yeast infection can also increase your risk of other infections, such as sexual transmittable diseases. So you should also take note on that. Now, we are going to go to section 2, where we'll be looking at urinary tract infections. Yes. Remember that I started by saying that we are going to look at it in 2 sections. Section 1 was vaginal yeast infection, and we are going to look at section 2, where we'll look at urinary tract infection. Now, number 1 risk factors is sex. Yeah. Sex can push bacteria from the genital area into the urethra. The urethra connects right from the kidney and comes down to your bladder. So sex is a risk factor, can predispose you or increase the risk of having a urinary tract infection. Now, pregnancy, number 2, is very important because pregnancy can also increase your risk of having a urinary tract infection due to what? Hormonal changes. Yes, and pressure on the urinary tract. Now, we are going to look at menopause. Now, we know that menopause can lead to decrease in estrogen level. These are hormones that regulate the menstrual cycle, and estrogen is very vital as far as the reproductive cycle is concerned, and which can also increase the risk of urinary tract infection, especially when at women that are far past the childbearing age. So it's very important. It can be predisposed to urinary tract infection. Now we are going to look at diabetes too. Remember, we saw diabetes when it comes to vaginal yeast infection. Of course, diabetes also is a risk factor as far as urinary tract infection is concerned. Women with diabetes are more prone to urinary tract infection due to what? High blood sugar that we recently saw. Of course, we have a weakened immune system. When your immune system is weak, you are more likely to be susceptible to urinary tract infections. Now we have treatment options, which we can use antibiotics such as Bactrim. We commonly know it as Bactrim. It's very common. That can help to clear the infection. You can get pain reliever medications such as ibuprofen that can also help alleviate symptoms. This one is very important because these prevention tips or options for urinary tract infections, that's something that we don't need to spend. It is very easy that we can implement it even at our various corners in our environment. Number 1 point is for you to drink plenty of water. You know, when you drink plenty of water, it can help flush out bacteria from the urinary tract, right? You need to practice urinating after sex. So after having a sexual intercourse or after having an affair, it is very important that you urinate so that it can flush some of those bacteria that may have entered the urethra during sex, right? There are certain foods that you need to avoid. Now, you need to avoid spicy food or acidic food. This can help reduce irritation in the urinary tract infection. Yes, spicy food, it helps reduce irritation in the urinary tract. Now, what are the complications of this urinary tract infection? Imagine that you don't treat the condition. Maybe if you realize that you have symptoms and you don't treat it, of course, it may even damage your kidneys if left untreated. Yes, it can lead to kidney damage. You can have even recurrent infections. Urinary tract infection can also lead to recurrent infections. Now, we also have increased risk of other infection. Urinary tract infection can increase the risk of other infection, right? Such as even STIs. So it is very important that we read our body so that when this condition surfaces, we'll be able to target it so that we can get rid of it to avoid it to advance to certain stage where we'll face complications, right? Now, I believe that up to this point, of course, you may have learned something. You may have gained knowledge, and of course, you should do what? You can like the video, you can share the video. If you are not subscribed, of course, you can subscribe and on the notification bell so that when I drop a video, you should be the first to be notified. Now, to conclude, vaginal yeast infection and urinary tract infections are very common health issue. So understanding the risk factors, taking preventive measures, and seeking timely treatment can reduce the impact, right? So untreated infections can lead to complications. So emphasizing on the importance and prioritizing health and seeking medical attention when need be is very vital. Thank you so much for listening. See you in my next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.